I still remember the way the sunlight streamed through the window that morning. It bathed the tiny clothes in a warm glow as I carefully folded each piece, imagining the little hands and feet that would soon fill them. The air was alive with possibility, and I felt it in my chest, a quiet, steady hum of joy. I was already falling in love with a future I could almost touch. Every kick, every flutter was a promise. I'd whisper to my growing belly in the quiet moments, telling stories about the world they'd get to see. I imagined their laughter, the sound of their first words, and the way their tiny fingers would curl around mine. It felt like life was expanding in ways I'd never known before. But life, as I learned, can also contract. The day I learned my baby wouldn't be coming home was the day the world shifted on its axis. The colors seemed to drain away, the sounds muffled as if a thick blanket had been thrown over my life. It was a pain unlike any I'd ever known, a hollowness that echoed in the deepest parts of me. In that moment, the future I had so carefully crafted, the one where tiny hands reached for mine and a sweet, gummy smile greeted me each morning, shattered into a million pieces. I remember clutching the tiny clothes I'd bought, the ones bathed in sunlight just days before, and feeling the weight of a love that had nowhere to go. It was in that crushing despair that I first encountered the fragility of hope. It wasn't that hope vanished entirely, but it became a delicate thing, easily bruised, a tiny flame flickering precariously in the wind. I learned that hope, like love, could exist alongside the most profound sorrow. It was a glimmer in the darkness, a whisper that maybe, just maybe, I could find my way back to a life touched by joy again. But it was a hope tempered by the knowledge that life could change in an instant, that promises could be broken, and that sometimes the deepest love stories were written in the language of grief. This understanding, as painful as it was, became a guiding principle in my life. It taught me to cherish every moment, every laugh, every sunrise, with a reverence I hadn't known before. It was a reminder that hope, though precious, was a seed that needed nurturing, a flame that needed shielding from the harsh realities of life. People would often say well-meaning but ultimately unhelpful things like, "At least you didn't get to hold them," or "You'll have another chance." What they didn't understand was that the grief I carried wasn't about a physical absence, but about the loss of a future, of dreams that would never be realized. It was a grief for the first steps never taken, the lullabies never sung, the bedtime stories never read. It was an invisible grief, one that lived in the space between breaths, in the quiet moments when the world's noise faded and all that remained was the echo of what could have been. This realization that grief could be just as profound for the unseen, the unlived, was a revelation. It taught me the importance of honoring every kind of loss, of acknowledging the pain that whispered beneath the surface. We live in a world that often struggles to acknowledge grief, especially when it doesn't fit neatly into predefined categories. But I learned that true healing began with acknowledging the validity of my own experience, of giving myself permission to grieve not just for the baby I lost, but for the mother I would never be in the way I had envisioned. This understanding, this validation of my own invisible grief, was a turning point. It allowed me to extend that same grace to others, to see the pain hidden beneath the surface, to recognize that sometimes the deepest wounds are the ones we carry silently within. In the aftermath of my loss, I searched for strength in all the wrong places. I thought it meant putting on a brave face, pretending I wasn't crumbling inside. I thought it meant powering through my days, ignoring the ache that lingered in every corner of my being. But true strength, I discovered, wasn't about outward appearances. It wasn't about denying my pain or pretending it didn't exist. It was about learning to coexist with it, to find ways to keep moving forward even when every step felt impossibly heavy. It was in the quiet moments, when the world was asleep and I was left alone with my grief, that I discovered the true meaning of strength. It was in the act of getting out of bed each morning, even when my body felt weighed down by sadness. It was in the simple act of making a cup of tea, of taking a shower, of doing the dishes, all while carrying the invisible weight of my loss. It was a quiet strength, a resilience born out of necessity that allowed me to keep putting one foot in front of the other. It was the strength to keep breathing, to keep hoping, to keep believing that even in the darkest of times, there was still light to be found. This understanding that strength could be found in the most ordinary of acts became my lifeline. It reminded me that I was capable of far more than I realized, that even in my brokenness, I possessed an inner reservoir of strength that could carry me through. It was a strength that didn't announce itself with fanfare, but whispered quietly in the stillness of my heart, reminding me that I was not defined by my loss, but by my capacity to rise above it. For a long time, I carried my grief like a shameful secret, afraid to burden others with its weight. I thought that by sharing my pain, I would diminish their joy, that I would become a source of sadness in their lives. But what I discovered was that the opposite was true. It was in the sharing, in the vulnerability of letting others see my broken heart, that I found the greatest healing. It was in those raw, honest conversations where tears flowed freely and laughter mingled with grief that I realized I wasn't alone. I joined support groups, both online and in person, and found myself surrounded by women who understood my pain in a way no one else could. They had walked similar paths, carried similar burdens, and their stories became a lifeline, a testament to the fact that I could survive this, that I could find my way back to the light. It was in these shared spaces that I learned the power of empathy, the healing balm of knowing that someone else understood the depth of my sorrow. It was in these moments of connection, of shared tears and knowing glances, that the weight of my grief began to feel a little lighter. This understanding that there is strength in vulnerability, that sharing our pain can be an act of profound healing, became a cornerstone of my journey. It taught me that true connection is forged in the fires of shared experience, and that sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves and others is the permission to be fully seen and heard, even in our most vulnerable moments. Chapter 5. The Transformation of Love. One of the most difficult aspects of my grief was the fear that my love for my baby would fade with time, that the memories would grow dimmer, the pain less acute. I couldn't imagine a world where the love I felt wouldn't be a constant aching presence in my heart. But as time passed, I began to understand that love, like life itself, is constantly evolving. It doesn't disappear, it simply transforms. The all-consuming grief I felt in the beginning slowly gave way to a quieter, more enduring form of love. It was no longer a searing pain, but a gentle warmth that filled the spaces within me. It was in the quiet moments, when I looked at their picture or touched the tiny clothes I still kept tucked away, that I felt their presence most strongly. It was a love that transcended the physical, a connection that existed beyond the realm of time and space. It was a love that fueled my resilience, that gave me the strength to keep moving forward, to find joy and meaning in a world that had been irrevocably changed. This understanding that love never truly dies, that it simply transforms into something new and beautiful, brought me immense comfort. It allowed me to let go of the fear that I would forget, that the memories would fade. I realized that my love for my baby would always be a part of me, woven into the very fabric of my being. Chapter 6. The Capacity for Joy Amidst Sorrow. For a long time I felt guilty for experiencing joy. How could I laugh? How could I find pleasure in the simple things when my heart was still shrouded in grief? I thought that by embracing joy I was somehow betraying the memory of my baby, minimizing the depth of my loss. But what I came to realize was that joy and sorrow are not mutually exclusive. They can coexist, two sides of the same coin, each enriching and deepening the other. It was in the laughter of my loved ones, in the warmth of the sun on my skin, in the beauty of a flower blooming against all odds, that I began to rediscover the capacity for joy. It wasn't about denying my grief or pretending it didn't exist. It was about choosing to find moments of light in the darkness. It was about recognizing that my baby would want me to be happy, to live a life filled with purpose and meaning. Choosing joy wasn't a betrayal of my love for them. It was a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, to our ability to find beauty and hope, even in the face of profound loss. This understanding that joy is not frivolous but essential, that it is a form of resistance against the darkness, became a guiding principle in my life. It allowed me to embrace the full spectrum of human experience, to find moments of grace and gratitude even in the midst of my grief. Chapter 7. The Enduring Nature of Lessons. My baby may have only been a fleeting presence in my life, but their impact, like the ripples of a stone dropped in a pond, continues to spread outwards, shaping who I am and how I move through the world. They taught me the fragility of life, the preciousness of each moment, and the importance of cherishing the time we have with those we love. They taught me the depth of human resilience, the strength that can be found in the darkest of times, and the power of allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. They taught me that love never truly dies, that it transforms and evolves, becoming a source of comfort and strength long after we say goodbye. Most importantly, they taught me that even in loss, there is beauty to be found. There is beauty in the way we come together to support one another, in the way we find strength in shared pain, and in the way we honor the memories of those we have lost by living our lives to the fullest. These lessons, etched onto my heart by a love that transcended physical presence, continue to guide me. They are a reminder to live with intention, to love fiercely, and to never take a single moment for granted. They are a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, to our ability to find meaning and purpose even in the face of life's greatest challenges. Outro, a love that echoes. Every year on the due date that never came, I light a candle. It's a quiet ritual, just me and my thoughts, but it fills the room with warmth and reminds me of the love I'll always carry. The flame flickers softly, like the heartbeat I once watched with so much hope. As the candle burns, I don't dwell on the pain anymore. Instead, I think of the strength I've gained, the lessons I've learned, and the way my baby's short existence forever shaped me. In that moment, I feel connected, not just to the life I lost, but to all the mothers who've walked this path before me and those who will follow. Grief may never leave completely, but it no longer defines me. It has made me kinder, stronger, and more present, and as the candle burns out, I find myself whispering the same words I used to say to my baby. I love you. Thank you for teaching me to keep going.